March 12, 1984, Webster City, Iowa. Population 3,417, though the sign at the city limits still claimed 4,000 from better days. Clara Brennan counted the bills one more time on the kitchen table, smoothing each crumpled dollar against the formica surface like prayers that might multiply if she folded them carefully enough. $38. 9 days until the landlord knocked. 9 days until the eviction notice became something more than yellow paper taped to her door. The apartment smelled like old wood and something cooked days ago that Clara couldn't quite place anymore. Third-floor walk-up. Peeling floral wallpaper that someone had chosen in 1971, back when avocado green meant modern. The heater had quit working in January. The landlord promised to fix it. February came and went. Now it was March, and the cold still crept through the windows at night, the kind of damp Iowa cold that settled into your bones and stayed there. Wyatt sat at the table across from her, 9 years old, wearing sneakers with holes in both toes, his brown hair stuck up in the back where he'd slept on it wrong. He watched his mother count the money for the third time in 10 minutes. "Can we get milk today?" Clara's hand stopped. She looked at the oatmeal she'd made with water instead of milk, the bowl sitting in front of Greer, who was 6 and didn't understand yet why breakfast tasted different lately. The little girl pushed the spoon around, making patterns in the gray paste. "Tomorrow, sweetheart. Tomorrow we'll get milk." The lie tasted worse than the oatmeal. Tomorrow she'd have $38 or less, depending on whether the Chevette needed gas to get to another interview she wouldn't get. Greer looked up with those wide eyes, the kind of trust that made Clara's throat close up, the kind that made her want to scream at walls that wouldn't listen anyway. She'd been a stay-at-home mother for 10 years. Met Garrett Brennan when she was 22. Married at 23, babies came fast because that's what you did in Iowa in 1974. Wyatt first, then Greer 3 years later. Garrett worked construction. Charming smile. Big hands. Bigger promises. They'd bought a house on Maple Street with a yard and a swing set he'd built himself one Saturday in June. Then 1981. The recession hit and construction dried up like corn in August drought. Garrett started drinking. Not the social kind, the angry kind. The kind that made him throw things and blame Clara for every unpaid bill and every meal that wasn't perfect. By 82, he'd developed a gambling habit that ate their savings faster than termites in old wood. Came home one night in February 83, packed a duffel bag, said he was going to Sacramento where his cousin had work. Kissed the kids. Didn't kiss Clara. Walked out with $4,000 they'd saved for Wyatt's braces and Greer's school supplies. 3 years now. No letters, no phone calls, no child support checks. Clara filed papers, but you can't garnish wages from a ghost. She'd moved from the house on Maple to this apartment on 4th Street, where the paint chipped and the radiator clanged at midnight like someone hammering on pipes. Spent her savings on rent and food until the savings ran dry. Applied for welfare. 6-week waiting list. 6 weeks might as well be 6 years when you had 9 days. She'd worked before marriage. Waitress at the diner on Main Street from 72 to 74. Made decent tips. Could carry 4 plates at once and remember orders without writing them down. But that was a decade ago and the world had moved on without her. Technology changed. Systems changed. She hadn't touched a computerized cash register, hadn't filled out a job application in 10 years, didn't have references from recent employers because there weren't any recent employers. The first rejection came on March 13th. Henderson Farm Supply. Inventory clerk position, $5.25 per hour. Clara had worn her best skirt, the navy one she'd bought for Garrett's cousin's wedding in '79. Ironed it twice. Applied lipstick in the Chevette's rear-view mirror before walking in. The personnel manager was a man named Peterson, 50s, balding, reading glasses on a chain around his neck. He looked at her application the way you'd look at expired milk. "You've been out of the workforce for 10 years. "Yes, sir. I was raising my children." "And your last job was waitressing." "Yes, sir. But I'm a quick learner. I can—" "Technology has changed, Mrs. Brennan. We use computerized inventory systems now. Barcodes, digital tracking. You've never touched a computer. I can learn. We need someone who can start immediately without training. Someone current." I'm sorry. The drive home took 12 minutes. Clara cried for 10 of them, then wiped her face before walking into the apartment so Wyatt and Greer wouldn't see. March 14th. Webster City feed mill. Loading dock position 550 per hour. Heavy work, but Clara was willing. Desperate made you willing for anything. The foreman was Dale Murphy, 42. Muscular. Suspicious eyes that took in her height and weight and dismissed her before she finished introducing herself. This is men's work, 50-pound feed sacks all day. You're what, 120, 115? But I'm stronger than I look. Lady, I got guys lined up who can do this without throwing their backs out. You'd slow us down. Cost me money. Can't use you. The words hit harder than the first rejection. Not just unqualified, not wanted. Wrong body, wrong gender, wrong everything. March 15th, First National Bank. Teller position $6 per hour. The manager was Mrs. Eleanor Whitmore. Professional. Kind eyes but firm mouth. She wore a burgundy suit that probably cost more than Clara's entire wardrobe. Banking requires certification. Mrs. Brennan. 6-week course through the state program. Costs $180. Can you afford that? The number landed like a punch. $180 was half of what Clara had left. Half of nothing. I don't have that right now. Then I'm afraid we can't consider your application. I'm sorry. Clara drove to Main Street Grocery next. Cashier position $5 per hour. The manager was younger, maybe 30, with a corporate smile that didn't reach his eyes. You've been out of the workforce a decade. Technology changed. We have computerized registers now, scanners, digital payment systems. You've never worked with any of this. I can learn quickly. I'm good with numbers. We need someone with current experience. Someone who won't need weeks of training. I'm sorry. Sunset Gas Station. Attendant position $4.75 per hour. Minimum wage pumping gas and running the register. The boss wanted someone with mechanical knowledge. References from recent employers. Clara had neither. Franklin Elementary School. Cafeteria worker $5.15 per hour. Food service certification required. 6 weeks and $200 Clara didn't have. March 22nd. 8 days and Clara was back at Henderson Farm Supply. Different position this time. Inventory clerk $5.35 per hour. Same manager, same reading glasses. Same look of recognition that curdled into something like pity mixed with annoyance. Didn't we already talk? Yes, sir, but this is a different position. I thought maybe answers still no. You need experience. Come back when you have some. How am I supposed to get experience if no one will hire me? That's not my problem, Mrs. Brennan. 7 rejections. 7 variations of not good enough, not qualified, not wanted. Clara sat in the Chevette in the Henderson parking lot afterward, hands gripping the steering wheel so hard her knuckles went white. The car smelled like burning oil. The transmission slipped when she shifted from second to third. The passenger door didn't lock anymore. Wyatt had asked that morning why they couldn't go to McDonald's like his friend Tommy's family. Greer had asked if they were poor. Clara had smiled and lied and felt pieces of herself crack like old ceramic. The crying came in waves. Quiet at first, then harder chest-heaving kind of sobs that made her nose run and her mascara smear. She cried for the house on Maple Street they'd lost, for the marriage that had rotted from the inside out, for Garrett who'd left them like trash on a curb, for the $38 that wouldn't stretch to cover rent and food and gas and everything else, for the eviction notice waiting at home, for being 35 years old and having nothing to show for it except 2 beautiful kids who deserved better than oatmeal made with water. A knock on the window made her jump. Wyatt stood outside, backpack over one shoulder, confusion and worry fighting for space on his young face. Clara had forgotten she'd parked near his school. Must be 3:15 already. Mom, why are you crying? She wiped her face with the back of her hand, smearing mascara across her cheek. Just tired, baby. Come on, get in. The drive home was silent. Wyatt kept glancing at her, questions forming and dying on his lips. Clara wanted to tell him it would be okay, wanted to promise things she couldn't deliver. Instead, she drove and felt the weight of failure pressing down until she could barely breathe. That night, after the kids went to bed, Clara sat at the kitchen table with a calculator and a notepad. She'd done this math 17 times already, but kept hoping the numbers would change. They never did. Rent due, March 21st. $360. She had 38. Even if she sold everything she owned, the furniture from Goodwill and the dishes from garage sales, she might scrape together another 100. Still 200 short. The landlord had already given her an extension in February. There wouldn't be another one. She thought about calling Garrett's parents in Des Moines. Too proud. They'd blamed her for the divorce anyway, said she must have driven him away. Her own parents were dead. Car accident in '78. Only child. No siblings, no safety net. Friends from high school had moved away or moved on. Webster City was full of people who knew her story, which made it worse somehow. Everyone watching, everyone whispering. The divorced woman who couldn't keep her husband or pay her rent. March 23rd, Friday. Clara walked to the post office to mail job applications to Cedar Falls and Waterloo. 30 miles away, but maybe distance would help. Maybe no one there would know her story. She spent $3 on stamps, which left 35. The self-service kiosk near the door had a bulletin board covered in flyers. Garage sales, lost cats, church bake sales, and tucked in the corner, written in blue pen on lined paper torn from a spiral notebook. Farm help needed. Apply at Whitmore Farm 6 miles east on Highway 20. Clara stared at the sign. Farm work. She didn't know anything about farming. Grew up in Des Moines, concrete and streetlights. Moved to Webster City when she married Garrett, but stayed in town, never ventured out to the farms that sprawled across the county like patchwork quilts stitched from dirt and corn. She couldn't tell a tractor from a combine, didn't know soybeans from field corn until they were on her plate. But $35. 6 days until eviction. 7 rejections that all said the same thing. Not qualified, not experienced, not wanted. What did she have to lose? The Chevette burned oil worse on the highway. Black smoke puffed from the exhaust every time Clara accelerated. The transmission shuddered, shifting into third. 6 miles felt like 60. Cornfields stretched on both sides, brown and dead from winter waiting for spring planting. Farmhouses dotted the landscape, white or red or weathered gray, surrounded by barns and sheds and equipment that looked like sleeping metal giants. Whitmore Farm announced itself with a painted sign at the end of a gravel driveway. 450 acres, according to smaller letters underneath. Clara turned in gravel, crunching under tires that needed replacing. The driveway curved past a white 2-story farmhouse. Pristine white paint, black shutters, wraparound porch. Beyond it stood a red barn, the kind you saw on postcards, tall and proud, with a cupola on top. 3 equipment sheds lined up like soldiers. Tractors parked in neat rows. John Deere green. Case IH red. Everything organized, maintained, professional. Clara's stomach twisted. This was a real operation. Serious. She was about to embarrass herself. But $35. 6 days. She parked near the largest shed, killed the engine. The Chevette made a dying wheeze and went quiet. A man worked inside the shed, bent over a tractor engine, grease-stained hands holding a wrench. Clara could see him through the open door. Tall, 60-something, gray hair, blue work shirt with the sleeves rolled up, jeans that had seen years of labor, work boots scuffed white with age. Her legs felt weak walking toward him. City clothes, navy skirt, flats with scuffed toes, clean hands that had never touched farm equipment. She must look ridiculous. "Excuse me, I'm here about the job." The man looked up. Weathered face lines carved deep from sun and wind and decades outdoors. Blue eyes that assessed her the way you'd assess livestock at auction. Not cruel, just thorough. He set down the wrench, wiped his hands on a red shop rag that was more grease than fabric. "You hear about farm help?" "Yes, sir." He studied her. City skirt, flats. Hands soft as bread dough. Nervous posture. Everything about her screamed wrong place, wrong person. "You know anything about farming?" The question landed heavy. Clara felt her hope deflating like a tire with a slow leak. "No, sir. I don't. Ever driven a tractor? No, sir. Ever worked with cattle or equipment? No, sir. Then why are you applying for farm work? Clara felt tears forming, fought them back. Not here. Not in front of this stranger who was about to become rejection number 8. But the words came anyway, tumbling out in a rush of desperation she couldn't control. Because I need a job, Mr. Whitmore. I've applied at 7 places in Webster City in the past 10 days. Every single one turned me down because I don't have recent experience. I've been a stay-at-home mother for 10 years. My ex-husband left 3 years ago. He sends no child support. I have 2 kids. Wyatt is 9, Greer is 6, and I have $35 in my wallet. My rent is $360 and it's due in 6 days and I don't have it. Her voice cracked. She kept going. I don't know farming. I've never worked outside in my life. But I'm a hard worker, sir. I'll learn faster than anyone you've ever hired. I'll show up early and stay late. I'll do whatever you need. Clean, organize, carry, lift, drive, learn equipment. I won't complain. I won't call in sick. I won't quit. My kids are watching me right now to see if their mom can provide for them. I refuse to let them down. The tears came despite her best efforts. She wiped them away, angry, embarrassed. If you give me one chance, I will prove I can do this work. I know I'm asking you to take a risk on someone with no experience, but I'm asking because I'm out of options and I'm desperate, and desperation makes people work harder than anything else. She stopped, breathing hard, mascara running, pride gone, just desperation now raw and exposed in the afternoon light. The man she'd called Mr. Whitmore studied her face, really looked. Not at her clothes or her soft hands or her obvious lack of qualifications, at her eyes, the desperation there, the determination underneath, the fear barely held back, the pride fighting to stay intact. 15 seconds passed. Clara counted every one, heard her heartbeat in her ears, felt the weight of 6 days and $35 and 2 kids who needed milk and breakfast that didn't taste like cardboard. If I hire you and the work gets hard, and it will get very hard, will you quit? The question cut through everything else. Direct. Simple. The only thing that mattered. Clara met his eyes. No, sir. I won't quit. I can't quit. My kids depend on me. The man nodded slowly. Seemed to reach some internal decision that Clara couldn't read on his weathered face. Okay. I'll hire you. Clara's knees nearly gave out. What's $6 an hour? 40 hours a week. That's $240 a week, $960 a month. I'll teach you everything you need to know. But you work hard, you follow instructions, and you don't complain about the difficulty. Deal. Clara couldn't speak for a moment. Couldn't process. Her brain had prepared for rejection number 8. Not this. Not hope. Deal. Yes. Thank you. When do I start Monday morning? 6 a.m. Wear work boots and jeans. That skirt won't work here. I don't have work boots. Goodwill on 5th Street usually has some. Get jeans, too. Work shirts. Gloves if they have them. Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much. The man extended his hand. Clara shook it. His grip was firm, calloused, the handshake of someone who'd worked with those hands for decades. Robert Whitmore. Most people call me Webb. Clara Brennan. See you Monday. Clara? The drive back to town passed in a blur. Clara cried again, but different this time. Relief, gratitude, terror. She had a job. Finally. After 7 rejections and 9 days of panic and $35 in oatmeal made with water, someone had said yes. Someone had looked past her lack of experience and seen something worth hiring. At home, she told Wyatt and Greer over dinner. Spaghetti with sauce from a jar because that's what she could afford. Their faces lit up like 4th of July fireworks. You have a job, Mommy. I have a job, sweetie. What kind of job? Farming. I'm going to learn to be a farmer. Wyatt looked skeptical. You don't know how to farm. Not yet. But I will. That weekend, Clara spent $29 at Goodwill. Work boots, $9, brown leather, scuffed but solid. 2 pairs of men's jeans, $7 each because women's work pants cost more, and she couldn't afford the difference. 3 work shirts, $6 total, faded flannel that had been washed so many times the colors looked sun-bleached. Work gloves, canvas with leather palms, $2. She had $6 left. Bought milk. Real milk. Wyatt and Greer drank it like Christmas morning. Sunday night, Clara laid out her work clothes. Boots by the door. Jeans and flannel shirt on the chair. Set her alarm for 5 a.m. Lay in bed staring at the ceiling, too nervous to sleep. What if she couldn't do it? What if Webb realized his mistake on day one and fired her? What if she really was too weak, too inexperienced, too wrong for this? But $35 had become $6, and $6 wouldn't pay rent, and 2 kids needed their mother to not give up. Monday morning, March 26th, 5 a.m. Clara, dressed in the dark, drove through empty streets to Highway 20, turned east as the sun started painting the horizon orange and pink. Arrived at Whitmore Farm at 5:52, 8 minutes early. Webb was already working in the equipment shed. Looked up when her headlights swept across the gravel. "You're early." "Good." He spent 2 hours showing her around. The machine shed, 40 by 60 feet, concrete floor, spotless despite decades of tractors and repairs. Tools organized on pegboards, every wrench and socket in its place. Part shelves labeled. Hydraulic fluid here. Motor oil there. Grease guns in a rack by the door. Everything systematic. Intentional. Organization saves time. Everything has a place. When you use something, put it back where it belongs. Understand? Yes, sir. The barn next. Red paint, fresh white trim, clean. Hayloft above, equipment storage below. He showed her the grain bins, tall silver cylinders that held corn and soybeans from last year's harvest. Explained moisture content and spoilage. Clara took mental notes, trying to absorb information that felt like drinking from a fire hose. Your first task. Clean and organize the tool bench in the machine shed. Sweep the floor. Put everything in order. Simple work but important. Shows me you pay attention to detail. 8 hours. Clara swept and organized and sorted. Her hands blistered from gripping the broom and lifting unfamiliar tools. Back ached from bending and reaching. But she finished. Tool bench spotless. Tools sorted by size. Floor swept clean. She found Webb in the barn at 5 p.m. He inspected her work. Ran a hand along the bench. Nodded. Good work. Same time tomorrow. That night, Clara collapsed on her couch. Body hurt everywhere. Hands blistered despite the gloves. Back screaming. Shoulders tight. But she'd done it. Day 1. Didn't quit. Tuesday. Day 2. Webb brought out a tractor. John Deere. 3020. Older model, manual transmission, diesel engine that coughed blue smoke when it started. Green paint faded in places to almost white. But solid. Reliable. This is where you learn. Clutch in. Shift to first. Throttle here. Let the clutch out slow. Clara tried. Stalled. Engine died with a jerk that rattled her teeth. Again. Stalled. Again. Third time. Fourth. Fifth. Sixth. A man appeared from the barn. Dale Murphy, 42, the same foreman from the feed mill who'd told her this was men's work. He worked part-time for Webb, hauling grain, doing heavy labor. His eyes lit with recognition and something meaner. Satisfaction, maybe. Vindication. City girl can't drive stick. Clara's face burned, humiliation hot and sharp, but she tried again. 7th attempt. The tractor lurched forward, jerky and rough, but moving. By noon, she could drive it around the yard without stalling. By 4 p.m., she backed it into the shed, tight fit, sweating but successful. Webb watched. Didn't praise, just nodded. You're picking this up faster than I expected. Most people quit after day 2. I told you I wouldn't quit. People say that. Few mean it. You mean it. Wednesday, day 3. Backing grain wagons. Hardest skill Clara had encountered yet. Wagons don't turn like cars. You steer opposite of instinct. Push the wheel when your brain screams pull. Clara jackknifed a wagon twice, nearly hit the barn door once. Webb grabbed the wheel. Easy, you're learning. Dale watched from across the yard, shook his head, muttered something to another worker that made them both laugh. Clara caught the words cost him money and pretended she didn't. By end of day she could back wagons competently. Not perfect, but functional. Her confidence grew in tiny increments. Maybe she could do this. Maybe. Thursday, day 4. Equipment maintenance, oil changes, filter replacements, grease points. Each tractor had 70 to 90 zerks that needed regular servicing. Webb showed her how to pump grease into each fitting. Clara's hands cramped from squeezing the gun. Blisters formed on top of yesterday's blisters. She wrapped them in Band-Aids and kept working. But something happened. Webb noticed it first. You've got good hands for mechanical work, natural feel for how things fit together. Really, I've never done anything like this. Some people have it, some don't. You do. Clara felt something shift. Pride, maybe. Competence. She'd never thought of herself as mechanical, never had reason to. But watching an engine come together, understanding how parts connected, feeling the satisfaction when something clicked into place correctly, it felt right. Natural. Like finding a language she didn't know she spoke. Dale appeared again. Watched Clara replacing an oil filter. Next, you'll have her rebuilding engines. Webb didn't look at him. Maybe I will. Friday, day 5. Fieldwork introduction. Webb drove Clara out in his pickup truck Ford F-25. Oh, that smelled like diesel and old leather. They walked through cornfield stubble from last year's harvest. Webb showed her the soil explained differences she couldn't see yet, but would learn. This is sandy loam. Drains fast, warms up early in spring. Good for early planting. That section over there is clay. Holds moisture, slower to warm. You adjust planting depth and fertilizer based on soil type. Why not just plant everything the same? Because the land's not the same. Treating it all alike means some sections produce half what they should. Farming's about paying attention, seeing differences, adjusting. Clara asked questions. Why not corn every year? How do you know when to plant? What about fertilizer timing? Webb answered each one patient thorough. She realized she was thinking like a farmer already, considering variables, planning ahead, connecting cause to effect across seasons. That evening Friday, Clara drove home in the dying light. Body ached everywhere, hands blistered and raw, back screaming, shoulders tight. But she'd done it. 5 days, 40 hours, first paycheck coming next Friday, $240. Rent would be late, but she'd pay it. Food would be on the table, milk in the refrigerator. Wyatt and Greer asking for seconds instead of pretending to be full when they weren't. She collapsed on the couch. Wyatt came over, sat next to her. How was your week, Mom? Hard. Really hard. But good. Greer climbed up on her other side. Are you still a farmer? I'm learning to be one, sweetie. That night after the kids went to bed, Clara started a notebook. Spiral-bound 50 cents at Walmart. She wrote down everything Webb had taught her. Tractor controls, grease point locations, soil types, oil change intervals. Studied it before bed like cramming for a test that mattered more than any test she'd taken in school. First paycheck Friday, $240. Rent $360. Still short, but not impossibly short. She paid what she could, promised the landlord the rest in 2 weeks. He grumbled but accepted. Clara bought groceries, real groceries, milk and bread and peanut butter and apples. Wyatt and Greer ate like they'd been starving, which maybe they had been quietly without complaining, because kids know when complaining won't help. Clara slept better that night than she had in 3 years. Body still ached, hands still hurt. But employed ache felt different than unemployed ache. Purpose made pain bearable. Having a chance, even a hard chance, beat having no chance at all. 6 days earlier she'd had $35 and 9 days until eviction. 7 rejections that all meant the same thing: not wanted, not qualified, not good enough. Then Webb Whitmore had asked one question: will you quit when it gets hard? She'd answered honestly, no. And he'd believed her. That belief that one chance was the difference between homeless and housed, between oatmeal made with water and milk in the refrigerator, between kids who watched their mother fail and kids who watched her fight. Clara didn't know it yet, but that question and her answer would shape the next 24 years, would take her from farm worker to farm owner, from $35 to wealth she couldn't imagine, from desperate single mother to woman who'd give dozens of others the same chance Webb had given her. But that was years away. Right now, end of week 1, all she knew was this: she'd survived, learned, worked harder than she thought possible, proven to Webb and to herself that desperation plus determination could overcome inexperience. Monday morning would come early, more lessons, more blisters, more of Dale's contempt and Webb's patient teaching. More days of proving she meant what she'd said. She wouldn't quit, not when it got hard, not ever. Her kids depended on it. April arrived with mud season. Iowa soil thawed and turned to black paste that clung to tractor tires and boots and everything else. Planting season meant 12-hour days, sometimes 14 when rain threatened. Clara learned to run the 8-row planter John Deere model that required constant attention. Seed depth mattered. Too shallow, and birds ate the kernels before they sprouted. Too deep, and they never germinated at all. Webb rode alongside on the first pass, watching her work. The planter had monitors that showed seed population depth spacing. Clara watched them obsessively, adjusting hydraulics, checking hoppers, making sure every row planted consistently. Her concentration was absolute. Miss a spot, and that spot stays bare all season. Plant too thick and you waste seed and choke the crop. Precision mattered more than speed. By the third day, she ran the planter alone. Webb trusted her with equipment worth $45,000. That trust felt heavier than the machine itself. Dale watched from across the field where he worked the disc, preparing ground ahead of her. His expression said what his mouth didn't: she'd fail eventually. Wreck something. Prove him right. Webster City noticed. Small towns always notice. At the diner on Main Street, farmers gathered for breakfast like they had for decades. Coffee and gossip both served hot and bitter. The divorced Brennan woman working out at Whitmore's place became a topic worth discussing between bites of eggs and hash browns. Did you hear Webb hired that divorced woman, the one whose husband ran off? I heard she doesn't know farming from nothing. Never even driven a tractor before March. Webb's getting soft in his old age. Probably feels sorry for her. Give it 2 weeks. Farm work's too hard for someone like that. The talk reached Clara through Carol Winters, the woman who worked at the grain elevator and knew everyone's business. Carol mentioned it casually one afternoon when Clara stopped to drop off a soil sample. Meant it kindly, a heads up, but the words still stung. Everyone waiting for her to fail. Everyone watching. Everyone keeping score. Wyatt heard it at school. Kids repeated what their parents said at dinner tables, the way kids do, not always understanding the cruelty they're delivering. Tommy Henderson, whose father managed the farm supply store that had rejected Clara, cornered Wyatt by the water fountain. My dad says your mom's trying to be a farmer. Girls can't be farmers. That's stupid. Wyatt came home quiet. Didn't mention it until Clara asked what was wrong. Then it spilled out, the teasing, the laughter, the way Tommy had made farming sound like something shameful, something to mock. Clara pulled him close, felt his skinny shoulders shake with anger and embarrassment. People don't think I can do it. They're wrong. I'm going to prove them wrong. You'll see. But what if they're right? The question hit harder than Clara expected. What if they were right? What if she couldn't do this? What if desperation had blinded her to her own limitations? Then I'll fail, trying. But I won't quit. That's the difference. May brought planting's final push. 450 acres of corn and soybeans, rotating fields the way Webb had done for 40 years. Clara worked dawn to dusk, came home so exhausted she could barely shower before collapsing into bed. Greer asked why Mommy was never home anymore. Wyatt, older and understanding more, told his sister that Mommy was working hard so they could stay in their apartment. The weight of that knowledge, her 9-year-old son explaining survival economics to his 6-year-old sister, made Clara's chest tight. Dale's antagonism evolved from skepticism to something meaner. He'd worked for Webb 5 years, expected to move up, eventually take on more responsibility, maybe manage things when Webb slowed down. Then Clara appeared. no experience, no background, female. And Webb gave her equipment work that Dale thought should be his. The first undermining was subtle. Dale would tell the seasonal workers 3 local guys Webb hired during planting and harvest to check with him before following Clara's instructions. Created confusion, made Clara look uncertain. She caught it the 3rd time it happened, pulled Dale aside in the machine shed after everyone else had left. "If you have a problem with me, say it to my face. But don't undermine me in front of the crew." Dale's jaw tightened. His eyes went cold. "You think you're special? You're just the charity case. Webb feels sorry for you. That's the only reason you're here. I earned this job. If you worked half as hard as I do, maybe you'd have been promoted already. But you don't. You complain, you cut corners, and you disrespect Webb. That's why you didn't get it." Dale took a step closer. Big man, used to intimidating people with size. Clara held her ground even though her pulse hammered. "We'll see how long you last." The rumor started in June. Clara heard it from Marcus Caldwell, a young guy with an agriculture degree who worked summers during college. He mentioned it awkwardly, clearly uncomfortable, but thought she should know. People at the grain elevator were saying Clara and Webb were having an affair. That's why she got hired. That's why she got equipment responsibilities, sleeping her way into a job she didn't deserve. The accusation made Clara physically ill. Webb was 63, old enough to be her father, married to Margaret for 41 years. The idea was absurd and disgusting, and exactly the kind of thing people would say about a woman who succeeded where she shouldn't. Men could work hard and get promoted. Women must be sleeping with someone. She didn't confront Dale directly. Couldn't prove he'd started it, though she knew. Instead, she worked harder. Let her performance speak. But the damage was done. Whispers followed her at the feed mill, the parts store, the co-op. Eyes that assessed and judged and found her guilty of something she hadn't done. Webb heard the talk too. Called Clara into his office one evening in mid-June. The office was a small room off the machine shed desk covered in seed catalogs and maintenance records, walls decorated with farm maps and soil charts. He looked tired, older than usual. "People are saying things about you and me, about why I hired you. I know. It's garbage. You know that. I know. I hired you because you answered my question honestly and I believed you. You've proven me right every single day since. Don't let Dale or anyone else get in your head." The words helped. Not much, but some. Clara nodded, thanked him, went back to work. But the rumors persisted like smoke that wouldn't clear. Small-town gossip had a half-life longer than uranium. June 12th. 3 months into this job. The day Clara almost quit. Wyatt woke up with fever. 102 degrees. Face flushed, eyes glassy. Complained his throat hurt and his head felt like someone was squeezing it. Clara gave him children's Tylenol, called Mrs. Anderson next door. The elderly woman had helped before, watched the kids when Clara worked late. She agreed to check on Wyatt every hour. Clara left her work number, kissed her son's hot forehead, felt like the worst mother in the world driving away while he lay sick. Work started bad and got worse. The cultivator broke down in the field, hydraulic line burst and sprayed fluid everywhere. Clara tried to fix it, couldn't figure out which line had blown, wasted 30 minutes before calling Webb. He came out, diagnosed the problem in 2 minutes, replaced the line in 15. Didn't criticize, but Clara felt incompetent anyway. Lunchtime, she backed a grain wagon into a fence post. Wasn't paying attention, thinking about Wyatt home sick, and the wagon corner caught the post and bent the hitch assembly. Knocked the post over, damage that would cost money and time to repair. Dale saw it happen. Grinned like Christmas morning. "Told you. She's gonna cost you." Clara's car wouldn't start when she tried to check on Wyatt at lunch. Battery dead. Webb had to jump it from his truck. Another delay, another failure. Another piece of evidence that everyone was right and she was wrong. Afternoon brought the disc blade breaking. Hit a rock she didn't see buried in the soil. Rock that had probably been there since glaciers retreated 10,000 years ago. Blade shattered. 1 hour to replace it, time they couldn't afford with rain forecast for tomorrow. By 4 p.m., Clara had caused 3 equipment failures, damaged property, and needed a jump start. She felt worthless. Incompetent. Like everyone who'd rejected her in March had seen something true she'd been too desperate to admit. Maybe she couldn't do this. Maybe desperation wasn't enough. Webb called her into the office at 5. Clara prepared herself for firing, calculated how many more weeks she could survive on what she'd saved, wondered if Henderson Farm Supply would hire her now that she had 3 months' experience, wondered if they'd laugh. She sat in the chair across from Webb's desk. He looked at her the way you'd look at a tractor with a mysterious problem. "Sarah, sit down." Clara's throat closed up. Fought tears. "Professional. Stay professional. I'm sorry about today. I'll pay for the damages. The wagon hitched the fence post, the disc blade. It's my fault." Webb looked genuinely confused. "Pay for what?" "The things I broke. I messed up multiple times today. I understand if you want to." "That's normal. Equipment breaks. We fix it. That's farming. But I broke it because I wasn't paying attention. Because Wyatt's sick and I'm worried and I wasn't focused and—" "You think I'm going to fire you over a bent hitch and a broken blade?" The question caught Clara off balance. "Aren't you?" Webb leaned back, chair creaking, rubbed his weathered face with both hands. "Let me tell you about my first year farming, 1943. I was 20 years old. My father had just died heart attack in the barn. Farm became mine overnight. Didn't know what I was doing. First week I rolled a tractor trying to pull a stuck wagon, completely flipped it, broke my collarbone, destroyed a section of fence. Second week I planted 40 acres at the wrong depth, had to replant the entire thing. Wasted seed, wasted time, wasted diesel. Third week I backed a wagon straight through the barn door, knocked the whole door off its frame, splintered wood everywhere. Clara listened. The story didn't sound like a man firing someone. Sounded like something else. Farming is mistakes, constant mistakes. Equipment breaks. Weather doesn't cooperate. You make wrong calls. Hit rocks you didn't see. The question isn't whether you make mistakes, it's whether you learn from them. Tomorrow you'll check mirrors before backing. You'll watch for obstacles. You'll remember hydraulic lines can fail. That's learning. That's how this works. But I cost you money today. Time. I feel like I'm failing. You're succeeding. Trust me. You've made fewer mistakes in 3 months than most people make in a year. And you work twice as hard as anyone I've had. You think one bad day changes that Clara felt tears coming despite everything. Relief mixing with exhaustion, mixing with guilt about Wyatt homesick. Webb's voice softened. "Go home. Check on your boy. Come back tomorrow. We'll fix what broke today and we'll keep going. That's farming, breaking and fixing, planting and hoping, failing and trying again." She drove home crying. Different tears than March. Not desperation tears, relief tears. Webb believed in her even when she didn't believe in herself. That meant something, more than she could articulate. Wyatt's fever had broken. Mrs. Anderson had given him soup and juice. He was watching cartoons, looking pale but better. Clara hugged him so hard he protested. Made dinner. Put both kids to bed early. Sat at the kitchen table with her notebook and wrote down every mistake from today. Studied them. Learned them. Promised herself she'd never make those specific mistakes again. New mistakes, sure. But not those. June 13th, she arrived at 5:50 a.m., fixed the fence post herself, repaired the wagon hitch with Webb's guidance, replaced the disc blade, worked until dark, didn't break anything, didn't hit anything, focused absolutely. Proved yesterday was a bad day, not a pattern. That was the last time she thought about quitting. Webb's confidence carried her through every hard day after. Fall brought harvest. September through October, weather-dependent, time-sensitive work that couldn't wait. The combines ran dawn to dusk and beyond when conditions were right. Clara learned to operate the John Deere 7700 massive machine with a corn head that could harvest 6 rows at once. Complicated controls, countless things to monitor. Yield data, moisture levels, grain tank capacity, engine temperature, cutting height. Webb showed her the manual, had her study it at home. Clara read it cover to cover 3 times. Practiced in the field under his supervision until she could run it competently. Then he turned her loose on 40 acres while he hauled grain to the elevator. Trust again. $45,000 of equipment. Thousands of dollars of crop. In her hands. She worked 16-hour days during harvest. Dawn to midnight when weather allowed. The work was physically brutal and mentally exhausting, but she loved it. The rhythm of it. The urgency. The satisfaction of watching grain pour into the tank. Numbers adding up. Acres completed. Bins filled. Success measured in bushels and moisture percentages. One night at 10:30 the combine broke down mid-field. Bearing went out in the header drive. Clara called Webb on the radio. He drove out in the pickup, flashlight in hand, tool bag in the bed. Climbed up to inspect the problem. "That's done for tonight. We'll fix it tomorrow morning." Clara surprised herself, asking, "Can you teach me to fix it now?" Webb looked at her. 10:30 at night, both exhausted. Reasonable to quit and start fresh tomorrow. You want to learn to repair a combine bearing at 10:30 at night? If I know how to fix it, I can save you money next time by doing it myself. Webb laughed, not mocking, impressed. "Okay, let's fix it." They worked until 1 a.m. Clara held the flashlight, handed tools, watched every step, asked questions. Learned the bearing assembly, how to remove it without damaging the housing, how to press the new one in correctly, how to torque the bolts to spec. Drove home at 1:30, back at 6 a.m. for another day. Harvest that year finished by early November. Webb's farm produced 23,000 bushels of corn and 12,000 of soybeans. Above average yields. Good moisture. Premium prices. Profit for the year exceeded expectations. Webb paid Clara overtime for every hour over 40. Her October paycheck was $870. November's was $620. More money than she'd ever earned. She'd saved $3,000 by year's end, caught up on every bill. Bought winter coats for Wyatt and Greer, good ones from the department store instead of Goodwill. Had food in the pantry, milk in the refrigerator. Life was stable for the first time in 3 years. January 1985 brought a cold snap that froze pipes and made starting tractors nearly impossible. Webb spent a morning in the unheated barn trying to get the John Deere 4440 to turn over. Clara found him at noon sitting on the running board, face gray, breathing shallow. He waved off her concern, but she called Margaret anyway. Margaret drove him to the hospital over his protests. Tests showed early signs of heart strain. Nothing catastrophic yet, but warning signs. The doctor said to slow down. Reduce stress. Take it easier. Webb was 63, had been farming since he was 20. Didn't know how to slow down. Margaret called Clara that evening. Her voice was steady, but Clara heard the worry underneath. The doctor says he needs to reduce his workload. He won't admit it, but he's not as strong as he was. I need you to take on more responsibility. Make decisions so he doesn't have to carry everything. Clara felt the weight of that request. She'd been working 9 months, still learning, still making mistakes. But Margaret was asking. Webb needed help. That mattered more than Clara's doubts. I'll do whatever you need. I know you will. That's why Webb hired you. Spring 1985. Clara ran planting with minimal oversight. Webb supervised but didn't manage. Trusted her judgment on seed selection, planting dates, field assignments. She hired the seasonal crew, trained them, managed their schedules. Proved she could lead. Proved she could make calls that affected the farm's profitability. The farm performed well. Planting finished on time. Emergence was excellent. Stand counts exceeded projections. Webb told her over lunch in June, "You're running this better than I did at your age." The compliment settled into Clara's chest, warm and solid. November 1986. 2 years and 8 months since Clara had walked into Webb's equipment shed with $35 and 9 days until eviction. Webb called her into the office on a Friday afternoon. His expression was serious, impossible to read. "Clara, I need to talk to you about something." She sat, heart hammering. Good news or bad, couldn't tell. "I'm making you assistant farm manager, $8 an hour plus quarterly bonuses based on farm profit. You'll help me plan crop rotations, manage equipment, maintenance schedules, coordinate seasonal labor, handle supplier negotiations. You interested? Clara couldn't speak for a moment. Assistant manager, 2 years, $8 an hour was 32% more than she made now. Bonuses on top of that. Webb. I've only been here 2 years. You've learned more in 2 years than most learn in 10. You work harder than anyone I've ever hired. You're smart. You're reliable. You care about doing things right. That's what I need. Margaret told me to hire you back in March '84. I almost didn't. Thought you'd never make it. She said you had something. She was right. Yes, absolutely yes. Thank you. The promotion came with a $10,000 bonus at year-end based on farm performance. Clara's total earnings for 1986 were $37,000. More than she'd imagined making. More than Garrett had ever earned. Enough to move to a better apartment. 3 bedrooms, nice neighborhood. Wyatt and Greer each got their own room. Clara bought a used Ford Taurus 5 years old but reliable for $4,000 cash. The Chevette went to a junkyard where it belonged. Dale Murphy quit 3 weeks after Clara's promotion. Walked into Webb's office on a December morning, face red, voice tight with anger. I'm done. I'm not working for a farm run by a woman who doesn't know what she's doing. Webb didn't try to change his mind. Good luck finding another job in Webster City. Dale left. Clara felt relief more than triumph. One less person actively hoping she'd fail. One less source of daily friction. 1987 brought expansion. Webb bought another 100 acres adjacent to his property. Clara managed the purchase negotiations, the soil testing, the integration into the crop rotation. Hired Marcus Caldwell full-time as assistant manager once Marcus graduated with his ag degree. Marcus was 29, grew up on a farm 2 counties over, knew equipment and agronomy, had the degree but not the experience. Clara asked Webb's question. If work gets hard, will you quit? Marcus answered honestly. No, ma'am. I want to learn farming from the ground up. This is what I've wanted since I was a kid. Hired. $7.50 an hour to start. That same year, Clara hired Carol Winters. 47. Widow. Husband had died in a tractor accident 18 months earlier. 4 grown kids all moved away. Carol had no work experience outside the home. Needed income. Needed purpose. Applied for the bookkeeper position even though she had no formal accounting training. Clara interviewed her in Webb's office. Saw herself in Carol. Desperate. Unqualified on paper. Willing to work hard if someone gave her a chance. Have you ever worked outside your home, Mrs. Winters? No. I raised 4 kids. Now they're grown and my husband's gone. I need work. Nobody will hire a 47-year-old woman with no experience. I understand if you can't use me, but I'm asking because I'm out of options. The words echoed. Clara remembered March 1984, remembered $35, remembered 7 rejections, remembered Webb asking if she'd quit. If work gets hard, will you quit? Carol's eyes went wet. No, ma'am. I need this job. I'll work until I drop. Hired. $7 an hour. Start Monday. Carol worked for Clara for 15 years. Became indispensable. Managed all financial records, accounts payable and receivable, tax preparation, employee payroll. Never complained. Never quit. Proved that giving someone a chance could change their life. By 1989, Clara was farm manager. 5 years since that first day. Webb promoted her officially in May, raised her salary to $11 an hour, plus 20% of net farm profit as annual bonus. The farm was grossing $280,000, netting $95 to $110, depending on commodity prices. 20% of that meant Clara earned between $50,000 and $55,000 total. More than she'd dreamed possible. She'd saved $62,000 over 5 years. Bought a house, modest 3-bedroom on Oak Street, 15 minutes from the farm. Paid cash, $38,000, no mortgage, no debt. The freedom of owning something outright, of knowing no bank could take it, felt better than the house itself. Wyatt was 14, growing tall and strong, good student, interested in agriculture. Asked questions about crop rotations and market prices. Clara saw a future where he might join the farm someday. That possibility made her chest tight with pride. Greer was 11, bright, loved animals, talked about being a veterinarian. Clara supported it completely, encouraged her daughter to dream beyond farms and fields. "You be whatever you want, sweetie. I'll support you." September 1991. 7 years since Clara had been hired. Life was stable, good. The farm ran smoothly. Money wasn't a problem anymore. Wyatt and Greer were healthy and happy. Clara had built something from nothing through sheer determination and Webb's willingness to give her a chance. Then Garrett came back. Saturday morning. Doorbell rang. Clara answered, saw her ex-husband standing on the porch. 7 years older, tan, well-dressed, confident in a way he'd never been when they were married. Her stomach dropped. "Hey, Clara." "Garrett, what are you doing here?" "Can I come in? I want to see the kids." Clara's protective instincts fired immediately. "You haven't contacted them in 7 years. "I know. I was dealing with some stuff. But I'm clean now. Sober. I have a good job in Sacramento. Make $60,000 a year managing a construction company. I got remarried. Wife's name is Stephanie. We have a nice house. I want to be in Wyatt and Greer's lives." Wyatt appeared behind Clara. 16 now, taller than his father. His face went hard seeing Garrett. "What are you doing here?" Garrett's confidence faltered slightly. "I came to see you. See your sister. I know I've been gone, but I'm better now. I want to make things right." Greer came to the doorway too, 13. Old enough to remember her father leaving. Old enough to remember the years that followed. Her expression was harder to read than Wyatt's. Confusion. Hurt. Hope warring with anger. "Where have you been, California?" "Sacramento." "I was sick, Greer. Addiction is a disease, but I got help. Been sober 4 years now. Go to meetings, have a sponsor. I'm different." Over the next hour, Garrett explained. Gambling addiction, alcohol. Hit rock bottom in 1985. Got into AA. Cleaned up. Found stable work. Married a good woman. Built a life. Wanted his kids to be part of it. Wanted to be the father he should have been. Clara listened. Heard sincerity. Also heard manipulation. Garrett had always been good at saying what people wanted to hear. Whether he meant it was another question. After Garrett left, Clara asked Wyatt and Greer how they felt. Wyatt was angry. Clear and simple. Greer was torn. Part of her wanted a father. Part of her resented 7 years of absence. 2 weeks later, papers arrived. Legal documents. Garrett was filing for shared custody. Wanted the kids' summers and every other holiday. Had a lawyer. Had documentation of his sobriety employment stable home. Had rights as their father regardless of how long he'd been gone. Clara's hands shook reading the papers. She could lose them. After everything. After 7 years of solo parenting and working 16-hour days and building a life from $35. Garrett could come back and take her children because the law said biology mattered more than presence. She hired Jennifer Reeves, attorney in Cedar Falls, $150 an hour. Clara spent $8,000 on legal fees preparing for the custody hearing. November 8, 1991, Hamilton County Courthouse. Judge Patricia Morrison presiding. Garrett's lawyer presented his case. 4 years sober. Documentation from AA. Employment verification showing $62,000 annual salary. Character witnesses from his employer and sponsor. Marriage certificate. Photos of his house in Sacramento. 3 bedrooms. Nice neighborhood. Good schools. Argued Garrett had overcome addiction. Deserved credit for recovery, had legal rights as father wanted to rebuild relationship with children he loved. Argued addiction was a disease, not a moral failing. That Garrett's recovery proved his character. That children deserved their father in their lives. Clara's lawyer presented her case. 7 years of solo parenting with zero support from Garrett. Financial records showing Clara had provided everything while Garrett provided nothing. School records showing Wyatt and Greer thriving academically and socially. Character witnesses from Webb, Margaret teachers' neighbors. Photos of Clara's house. Stable employment as farm manager. Income sufficient to support the children. Argued Garrett had abandoned his family, sent no child support, made no contact for 7 years. That recovery was commendable but didn't erase abandonment. that children's stability mattered more than biology. Then Wyatt testified. 16 years old, tall in his dress shirt and tie, nervous but determined. Judge Morrison asked if he wanted to speak. He did. My dad left when I was 9, took our savings and disappeared. No calls, no letters, no birthday cards, nothing for 7 years. My mom had $38 when he left. We almost got evicted. She got a job and worked harder than anyone I've ever known. She learned farming from zero. She made sure we had food and clothes and a home. She was at every parent-teacher conference, every school event, every time we were sick or scared or needed her. His voice cracked slightly, but he kept going. Now he shows up with a nice house and a new wife and wants us summers. He doesn't get to be dad just because it's convenient now. Mom earned that. Mom stayed. I don't want to live with him. I want to stay with the person who was there when it mattered. The courtroom was silent. Clara cried quietly. Garrett's face was red. Judge Morrison asked Greer if she wanted to speak. She did. 13 years old. Small voice but clear. I don't really remember him. I remember Mom crying when the bills came. I remember being hungry sometimes. I remember Mom working all the time but still making sure we were okay. I don't want to leave her. Judge Morrison reviewed the documentation, asked questions of both lawyers, recessed for 20 minutes to consider, returned with her ruling. Mr. Brennan, I appreciate your recovery and sobriety. Addiction is indeed a disease, and overcoming it deserves recognition. However, you cannot abandon your children for 7 years and then demand custody without first demonstrating sustained commitment. Here's my ruling. Visitation rights granted. 1 weekend per month supervised for the first 6 months by a court-appointed monitor. Child support established at $400 per month going forward, plus $100 monthly toward the $35,000 in arrears. Custody review in 1 year. If you maintain sobriety, employment, regular visitation, and child support payments, we will revisit the custody arrangement. Primary custody remains with Ms. Brennan. Clara's knees went weak. She'd won. Barely. Too close. But won. In the courthouse hallway afterward, Wyatt hugged her hard. I was so scared. Me too, baby. Me too. Garrett approached. Awkward. Defeated, but trying to maintain dignity. I'll see them next month. First Saturday. I'll be there. Clara nodded. Didn't trust her voice. He kept that promise. Showed up first Saturday of December. Took Wyatt and Greer to lunch with the court monitor present. Awkward for everyone. But he showed up. Sent child support checks. Maintained sobriety according to court-mandated testing. Over the next year, he rebuilt a relationship with his children. Not the relationship he'd had. Something new. Fragile. Supervised. Clara watched. Supported it because Wyatt and Greer deserved the chance to know their father if he was genuinely trying, but stayed vigilant, protective, ready to fight again if needed. By December 1992, Garrett's visitation had moved from supervised to unsupervised, 2 weekends per month. Kids spent Christmas week with him in Sacramento. Came back with stories about Stephanie and the house and California beaches. Clara listened, smiled, felt complicated emotions she couldn't quite name. Relief they had a father again. Resentment it had taken 7 years and a court order. Gratitude the judge had sided with her. Fear that could change. But for now, custody was settled. Her children were safe. The farm was thriving. 7 years ago, she'd had $35 and 7 rejections and no options. Now she had a home she owned, children who loved her, a job that paid well, savings that grew steadily. All because Webb Whitmore had asked one question and believed her answer. Will you quit when it gets hard? No. She'd meant it. Kept that promise through blisters and broken equipment and Dale's sabotage and community gossip and custody battles. Through every hard day and every moment of doubt. Through 7 years of proving herself over and over to people who expected her to fail. She hadn't quit. Not when equipment broke at 10:30 at night. Not when rumors spread. Not when her ex-husband returned demanding his children. Not when everything went wrong on the same day and she felt worthless and incompetent. She'd learned farming from zero. Became assistant manager in 2 years. manager in 5, built a life worth protecting, earned respect from people who'd mocked her, proved determination mattered more than experience. And the journey was just beginning. March 1992. 8 years since Clara had walked into Webb's equipment shed desperate and unqualified. 8 years of proving herself, building competence, earning trust. She was 43 now. Wyatt 17. Greer 14. Life had found a rhythm. The farm produced consistently. Money accumulated in savings. Stability felt normal instead of miraculous. Webb turned 69 in February. Still strong despite the heart scare 7 years earlier. Still sharp. Still farming with the competence that came from 5 decades of doing the same thing well. Margaret had convinced him to reduce his hours, let Clara handle more. He supervised, advised, made strategic decisions. But the daily grind belonged to Clara and Marcus now. The cough started in January. Persistent, deep. Webb dismissed it as winter cold that wouldn't clear. Margaret worried. Made him see the doctor in March. Chest X-ray, CT scan, biopsy. The word came back with the certainty of a hammer-strike cancer. Stage 3. Lungs. Likely from decades of agricultural chemical exposure before regulations tightened, before safety equipment became standard, back when farmers sprayed pesticides in short sleeves and breathed whatever the wind carried. Prognosis with treatment 3 to 5 years. Without treatment, 6 to 9 months. Webb chose chemotherapy. Started in April. He called Clara into the office on a Tuesday morning. Looked older than he had a month ago. Weight loss visible even through work clothes. The news hadn't reached town yet, but would soon. Small towns learned everything eventually. I have lung cancer. Stage 3. Starting chemo next month. Clara's world tilted. Webb was constant. Reliable. The foundation everything else was built on. The idea of him sick, dying, gone, her mind couldn't process it. I'm so sorry. I'm telling you because I need you to run the farm during treatment. Chemo's going to make me weak. Can't do physical work for a while. Maybe 6 months. Maybe longer. But the farm doesn't stop for cancer. Planting still happens. Harvest still happens. I need you to take over completely. Of course. Whatever you need. There's more. I don't have kids, Clara. No one to leave this place to. Margaret and I talked. We want you to take over eventually, but that means making it official now. The weight of those words settled heavy. Clara had been farm manager 3 years, managed day-to-day operations, made decisions about planting dates and equipment purchases and labor scheduling. But this was different. This was succession, legacy, the farm passing from one generation to another. I'm not ready. Yes, you are. You've been ready for 2 years. I just didn't want to admit I was getting old. But cancer doesn't wait for convenient timing. May 1992. Webb officially promoted Clara to full farm manager with complete operational authority. Salary stayed at $11 per hour plus 20% net profit. He'd pay her more, but wanted her to have skin in the game. Performance bonuses meant she worked to maximize profit, not just collect a paycheck. Aligned incentives created better outcomes. The farm grossed $290,000 that year. Netted $104,000 after expenses. Clara's 20% bonus was $20,800. Total earnings $56,000. She'd saved $88,000 over 8 years through disciplined frugality. Lived below her means. Drove used vehicles. Bought clothes at discount stores. Every dollar saved was freedom earned. Chemotherapy wrecked Webb. Strong man reduced to skeleton. Hair gone. Skin gray. Nausea constant. Energy non-existent. But he kept coming to the farm when he could. Sat in the office. Answered questions. Advised. Watched Clara run operations with the competence he'd spent 8 years teaching her. By December he was in partial remission. Cancer hadn't disappeared but had stopped growing. Doctors gave cautious optimism. Maybe 5 years. Maybe more if lucky. Webb took the news quietly. 5 years was 5 years. Time enough to set things in order. He called Clara to his house in late December. The farmhouse she'd driven past that first day 8 years ago. Inside was comfortable. Worn furniture, farm magazines on the coffee table, photos of Margaret's family covering one wall. No children of their own, but plenty of nieces and nephews captured in fading Polaroids. Margaret made coffee. The three of them sat at the kitchen table, same table where Webb and Margaret had eaten breakfast for 43 years of marriage. Webb's hand shook slightly, holding his mug. Chemo side effects that might never fully fade. I'm 69. Cancer's in remission, but it'll come back. Probably sooner than later. I need to think about what happens to this farm when I'm gone. Clara waited. Knew this conversation was coming, but hadn't prepared for it. My brother's family farms in Minnesota. They don't want this place. Have their own operation. Margaret and I don't have kids. I've thought about selling to some corporate farm, one of those big operations buying up land everywhere. But I'd rather burn it down than see it become another number on a spreadsheet managed from an office in Chicago. I want to sell it to you. The words hung there. Clara's mind raced. Buy the farm. 450 acres. Equipment, buildings. Operation worth over $1 million easy. She had $88,000 saved, nowhere near enough. Webb. I don't have money for a down payment on a farm this size. I know. That's why I'm offering owner financing. How much do you have saved? $88,000. I'll take $25,000 down. You pay me $3,800 a month for 20 years. Total price $937,000. Farm's worth about $1.1 million, but I'd rather sell below market to someone who'll take care of it than full price to a stranger. Clara did math in her head. $3,800 monthly was $45,600 annually. Farm netted $90,000 to $110,000 depending on commodity prices. After farm payment, she'd clear $44,000 to $64,000 for living expenses. Tight but doable, scary but possible. Why are you doing this? Because you've earned it. Because you saved this farm when I was ready to give up during the heart scare. Because you're the best farmer I've ever known and you started from zero. This land deserves an owner who'll take care of it. That's you. I don't know what to say. Say yes. Yes. Absolutely yes. They met with lawyers in early January 1993. Drew up owner financing agreements. $25,000 down. $3,800 monthly. 20-year term. 7% interest. Farm would be Clara's in full after 240 payments or early payoff. But complications emerged. The bank required mortgage insurance for owner financing agreements above certain thresholds, protection if the buyer defaulted. Without insurance, if Clara couldn't pay, Webb lost everything. The bank reviewed Clara's application. 8 years farming experience. 3 years as manager. Strong performance history, but still high risk. Woman. No college degree. No family farm background. Single mother with 2 kids. Application denied. Webb's attorney explained the problem. Without mortgage insurance, the contract was too risky. If Clara defaulted, Webb would be left with nothing to pass to Margaret. They needed protection. Alternative solution. Contract clause stating if Webb died before Clara paid off the farm, she owed the remaining balance to Margaret. But if Clara had paid 10+ years and maintained farm profitability, Margaret would forgive remaining 50% balance. Gave Margaret security while giving Clara realistic payoff terms. Webb signed without hesitation. Margaret signed. Clara signed. January 15, 1993. Clara Brennan became owner in progress of Whitmore Farm. The weight of it hit her driving home. She owned a farm. Sort of. Would own it fully in 20 years or less. 450 acres. Equipment worth $200,000. Buildings. Operation that employed 5 people full-time. All hers. All depended on her making $45,600 in payments every year for 2 decades while keeping the farm profitable enough to support herself and her kids. 1993 brought drought. Worst Iowa had seen since 1988. Corn germinated poorly. Soybeans struggled. June rainfall was 30% of normal. July worse. August desperate. Irrigation systems ran constantly pumping groundwater that dropped faster than rain could replenish it. Yields suffered. Harvest brought the numbers Clara had dreaded. Corn down 35% from average, soybeans down 40%, gross revenue $190,000 instead of $290, net profit $51,000 instead of $90 plus. After Clara's $45,600 payment, she cleared $5,400 for living expenses, $5,400 for 12 months, $450 monthly, for her and Wyatt and Greer. Impossible. She used savings to supplement, pulled $15,000 from her account to cover the gap, ended the year with $48,000 saved instead of $63. First year of ownership and she'd gone backward financially. 1994 started with optimism. Weather forecasts predicted normal precipitation. Soil moisture had partially recovered over winter. Clara planted with cautious hope. Then May brought rain. Not normal rain. Biblical rain. Flood rain. 10 inches in 3 days. Creeks overflowed. Low-lying fields turned to lakes. 80 acres Clara had planted early to corn sat under water for a week. Corn drowned. Complete loss. She replanted late May different crop soybeans that could handle late planting better than corn. But late planting meant reduced yields, late harvest, risk of frost damage before maturity. Clara's payment was due June 1st, $45,600. She had money in the operating account, but barely. The flood meant crop insurance claims delayed payouts, uncertainty about final yields, stress that manifested as sleepless nights, and tension headaches that wouldn't quit. Marcus found her in the machine shed one evening mid-May, sitting on the running board of the 4440, head in hands, shoulders tight, the weight of the payment and the flooded fields and the possibility of another bad year pressing down until breathing felt difficult. "You okay?" Clara looked up, tried to smile. Failed. "Just worried about the 80 acres, about yields, about whether I can make this work." Marcus sat on the running board opposite. 29 years old. Good kid. Loyal. Competent. "You'll make it work. You always do. What if I can't? What if this year is like last year? What if I can't make the payment? Then we figure it out. But you've got time. Harvest isn't until September. A lot can happen between now and then." The community surprised her. Carol organized a replanting crew. 8 farmers from surrounding operations volunteered equipment and time, showed up on a Saturday with planters and seed and labor, replanted the 80 acres in a single day, refused payment. Just neighbors helping neighbors the way rural communities had for generations. Clara stood at field edge watching tractors work in synchronized rows. Felt something crack open in her chest. Gratitude. Belonging. She'd spent 8 years proving herself to Webster City. Endured gossip and skepticism and outright hostility. But when crisis hit, they came. Not because they owed her, because she was one of them now. Earned her place through 8 years of showing up and working hard and not quitting when it would have been easier to quit. That evening she thanked each volunteer personally, shook hands, offered payment they all refused. Tom Henderson, whose father had rejected her job application 9 years ago, gripped her shoulder. "You'd do the same for any of us." That's how this works. Harvest brought relief. The 80 replanted acres yielded 80% of normal. Not great, but not disaster. Remaining acreage produced well. Weather cooperated during critical pollination periods. Corn hit maturity before first frost. Soybeans dried properly. Final numbers: gross revenue $240,000, net profit $68,000. After payment, Clara cleared $22,400. Better. Survivable. 1995 brought perfect weather, temperature, rainfall, growing degree days. Everything aligned the way farmers pray for and rarely receive. Clara's fields produced record yields. Corn, 192 bushels per acre versus 150 average. Soybeans, 58 versus 45 average. Commodity prices held steady. Gross revenue $312,000. Net profit $112,000. After payment, Clara cleared $66,400. She rebuilt savings, paid down mortgage principal aggressively, ended the year with $93,000 saved plus reduced loan balance. First time since buying the farm, that she felt financially stable instead of one bad year from disaster. June 1996. Webb's cancer returned. Aggressive this time. Spread to liver. Stage 4. No more remission. Just progression and pain management and time measured in months instead of years. Hospice care began. Margaret managed it at home with nursing support. Webb deteriorated rapidly. Strongman reduced to whisper. Clara visited every evening after farm work, sat by his bedside, talked about the farm, crop conditions, equipment maintenance, market prices, normal things. Webb listened, sometimes responded, sometimes just lay there with eyes closed, present but fading. One evening in early June he rallied enough to speak clearly, reached for Clara's hand, his grip weak but deliberate. "You've paid on the farm 3.5 years, $159,600 paid so far. You have $777,400 left over 16.5 years. I'll get it paid, Webb, I promise. I know you will. But I'm changing the terms." He handed her an envelope. Clara recognized his handwriting on the front, her name in shaky letters. "My new will. Read it after I'm gone. Webb. Take care of Margaret. She'll need you." "I will." June 18th. Webb died peacefully at home, Margaret beside him. Clara arrived minutes after, called by Margaret's tearful voice on the phone. She held Margaret while the hospice nurse made necessary calls, felt the weight of loss settle heavy. Webb had saved her life, given her a job when no one else would, taught her farming, promoted her, sold her his farm, believed in her when she didn't believe in herself. Now he was gone. The funeral filled Webster City Methodist Church beyond capacity. 450 people, every farmer in the county, suppliers, customers, people Webb had known for decades, people whose lives he'd touched through quiet kindness and steady example. Clara spoke. Margaret had asked her to, standing at the pulpit looking at hundreds of faces, throat tight with grief. "Webb Harrison saved my life in March 1984. I was 9 days from eviction. 7 places had rejected me. I had $38 and 2 hungry kids. I was out of options. Webb asked me one question. 'If I hire you and the work gets hard, will you quit?' I said no. He believed me. That decision changed everything. Webb gave me a job, taught me farming, made me assistant manager, made me farm manager, and sold me his farm. He saw potential where others saw risk. He believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. I owe him everything I have, everything I've become. All because he asked one question and gave me a chance. Webb used to say farming is mistakes. Learning from them makes you good. Webb taught me how to learn, how to persist, how to build something from nothing. I'll carry those lessons forever. Thank you, Webb. I'll take care of your farm, I promise." The church was silent except for quiet crying. Margaret nodded from the front pew, dabbed her eyes with tissue, mouthed, "Thank you." 2 weeks after the funeral, Clara sat in Attorney Richard Parsons' office. Present, Margaret Clara Webb's brother Thomas from Minnesota. Parsons read the will. Margaret received the farmhouse $200,000 cash retirement accounts totaling $340,000. Set for life, comfortable, secure, Thomas received $50,000 and family heirlooms. Then Parsons looked at Clara. "To Clara Brennan, I leave 50% ownership of Whitmore Farm, debt-free." Clara gasped. "This means Ms. Brennan now owns 50% of the farm outright. No payment owed. The remaining 50% ownership transfers to Margaret Harrison. Ms. Brennan's remaining debt of $777,400 is forgiven." Clara couldn't breathe. The numbers didn't make sense. She'd owned nothing, now owned half a farm worth over $1 million, free and clear, debt forgiven. Margaret smiled through tears. "Bob and I discussed this. He wanted you to have it. You earned it, Clara." Parsons continued reading. "The will specifies Ms. Brennan has first right of refusal to purchase Margaret's 50% share if Margaret ever wishes to sell. Appraisal value to be determined at time of sale. Clara's mind spun. Owned 50%. Could buy the other 50% eventually. Could own the entire farm. Everything. That night she lay in bed doing math. Her position before the will owned 0 owed $777,000. Her position after owned 50% free and clear value approximately $550,000. Net worth jumped from negative to positive $550,000 overnight. Margaret called in February 1997. She was 72, moving to Arizona near her sister. Webster City winters too harsh without Webb. Farm held too many memories. Ready to sell. The 50% was appraised at $600,000. Farm value had increased to $1.2 million total. Clara didn't have $600,000. Went to First National Bank, same bank that had rejected her teller application 13 years ago. Different manager now, but same institution. Ms. Brennan, you've run Whitmore Farm profitably for 8 years. Farm grosses $280,000 annually, nets $95,000 to $110,000. We'll approve the loan. $600,000 at 8% interest, 15-year term. Payment $5,740 monthly. Clara accepted. January 1998. She paid Margaret $600,000, became 100% owner of Whitmore Farm. Total invested to own farm, $25,000 down in 93. $159,600 paid before Webb died. $600,000 mortgage in 98. $784,600 invested for farm worth $1.2 million. Equity $415,400. The farm was hers. All of it. Land, equipment, buildings, legacy, responsibility. Everything Webb had built over 5 decades now belonged to the woman who'd walked into his equipment shed 14 years ago with $38 and no options. Clara began hiring with intention, used Webb's philosophy, gave chances to people others wouldn't, asked his question, hired based on determination instead of credentials. 1997 brought Sloan Harper, 21, single mother, baby daughter 8 months old, desperate for work. Applied for general labor position. No experience, no education beyond high school, just need. Clara interviewed her in the office, saw herself at 35, different circumstances, same desperation. Why do you want to work here? Sloan's voice shook. I need a job. My daughter needs food and diapers and a place to live. Her father left when I told him I was pregnant. My parents kicked me out. I'm living with a friend, but that can't last. I'll do anything, please. If work gets hard, will you quit? Sloan started crying. I can't quit. My baby needs me. I'll work until I drop. Hired, $8 an hour. Bring your daughter to work if you need to. Sloan worked for Clara 9 years. Brought her daughter to the farm until she started school. The baby slept in Clara's office playpen tucked in the corner while Sloan worked fields. Farm family took care of each other. 1999 brought Linda Grayson, 52, divorced. No recent work experience. Rejected by every business in Cedar Falls and Waterloo before trying Webster City. Applied for bookkeeper assistant position under Carol. Clara interviewed her. Recognized the pattern. You have no accounting experience. Linda's shoulders slumped. No. I was married 30 years. Raised 3 kids. My husband left me for a younger woman. I need work. Nobody will hire a 52-year-old woman with no experience. Clara smiled. I was you 15 years ago. 35. Divorced. No experience. 7 rejections. Then someone gave me a chance. If work gets hard, will you quit? Linda's eyes went wet. No, ma'am. I need this job more than I can explain. Hired. $7.50 an hour. Carol will train you. Linda worked for Clara until retirement. Learned accounting. Became indispensable. Proved again that giving someone a chance could change their life. Over 20 years, Clara hired 28 people. 17 had 0 farm experience when hired. She asked Webb's question every time. Hired based on answers. 23 stayed longer than 2 years. 82% retention versus 38% industry average. Her philosophy worked because it valued character over credentials. Wyatt graduated Iowa State in 1999 with agriculture business degree. 24 years old. Tall, strong, smart, everything Clara had hoped he'd become. She offered him co-manager position, $20 an hour to start. Partnership track. You don't have to farm if you don't want to. You can do anything. Wyatt shook his head. I want a mom. You built something here. I want to be part of it. Greer graduated Iowa State Veterinary School in 2003. 30 years old. Brilliant. Dedicated. Became large animal vet serving farms throughout Hamilton County. Didn't farm full-time but helped during harvest. Treated Clara's cattle and horses. Part of the operation tangentially. Clara supported both paths completely. Wyatt farming, Greer pursuing her passion. You be what you want. I support you both. No pressure. No expectations beyond their own happiness. By 2005, Clara had paid the mortgage aggressively, made extra principal payments every year, refinanced in 2002 for lower interest rate, accelerated payoff schedule. The farm was paid off free and clear by 2005, 12 years after buying instead of 15. Clara owned Whitmore Farm completely. No debt, no payments, just equity. 2008. Clara turned 59, Wyatt 33, fully capable of running operations independently. Clara had been farming 24 years, built wealth beyond imagination, saved prudently, invested wisely, accumulated $1.75 million between farm equity and liquid assets. Time to retire. Time to pass the farm to the next generation the way Webb had passed it to her. She called Wyatt into the office on a December morning. Snow falling outside. Quiet. Peaceful. I'm retiring. I want to sell you the farm. Wyatt's eyes widened. Mom, I can't afford $2.4 million. I'm not selling for $2.4. I'm selling for $1.6 family discount, and I'm doing owner financing just like Webb did for me. Terms $100,000 down from Wyatt's savings, $6,200 monthly for 20 years, 5% interest below market 7. Total $1.6 million for farm worth $2.4 million, $800,000 gift equity. I'm giving you what Webb gave me, a chance and fair terms. Wyatt's voice cracked. Thank you. The retirement party filled the Whitmore Farm machine shed. 300 people, farmers, suppliers, employees past and present, people whose lives Clara had touched over 24 years. Tables with food, music playing, speeches and stories and laughter. Clara stood before them, looked at faces young and old, felt the weight of 24 years, the journey from $38 to this moment, from desperate to secure, from unqualified to competent, from victim to victor. In March 1984, I had $38 and no job. 7 places rejected me because I had no experience. Webb Harrison hired me anyway, not because I was qualified, because he asked me one question. Will you quit when it gets hard? I said no. I kept that promise for 24 years. Webb gave me a chance when no one else would. He saw something in me I didn't see in myself. He taught me farming, made me assistant manager after 2 years, made me manager after 5 years, sold me his farm, changed my entire life, all because he asked one question and believed my answer. I've hired 28 people over 20 years. I always ask them Webb's question. Some say yes, honestly I appreciate that. Some say no, but don't mean it. A few say no and mean it. Those are the ones who succeed. Never judge people by their experience. Judge them by their determination. I had 0 experience in '84, but I had desperation and drive. That was enough. Webb saw it. I'm grateful every day that he did. Don't give up after 7 rejections. The 8th one might be your Webb Harrison. Standing ovation. Everyone crying. Sloan Harper holding her daughter, now 12. Linda Grayson dabbing eyes. Carol Winters smiling through tears. Marcus Caldwell nodding. Wyatt and Greer standing together proud. February 2009. Clara established the Whitmore Second Chance Fund. Donated $150,000 from retirement savings. Purpose: help people enter farming without traditional backgrounds. Requirements: no farming experience necessary. Must demonstrate determination and work ethic. Must answer Webb's question honestly. If work gets hard, will you quit? Submit business plan for farming operation. Benefits: $5,000 to $15,000 grants, not loans. Mentorship from Clara and network of farmers. Equipment access through partnership farms. Training in modern farming techniques. 2009 through 2020, the fund helped 31 applicants, 21 still farming successfully as of 2020, 68% success rate for complete beginners, 8 single mothers, 12 career changers, 11 young people without family farms. At fund events, Clara told her story: the $38, the 7 rejections, Webb's question, 24 years of farming, 1.75 million retirement. Young people listened with tears in their eyes. If you could do it, maybe I can too. Clara's response never varied. I had no advantages, no experience, no connections, no money. What I had was desperation and determination. That was enough. Webb saw it. If you have it, someone will see it in you too. 2020. Clara, 71. Wyatt, 45, running a 520-acre operation, expanded from Webb's original 450. Greer, 42, successful veterinarian, married 2 children. Clara's 4 grandchildren visited the farm often, played in the same barn where their grandmother had learned to grease tractors, rode in combines during harvest, learned that work could be hard and meaningful and worth doing well. The legacy wasn't the farm. The legacy was the question. Webb hadn't asked about Clara's experience. He knew she had none. Hadn't asked about qualifications. She had none. He'd asked the one thing that mattered. Would she quit when it got hard? That question cut through everything else. Experience, credentials, background. None predicted success better than determination to persist through difficulty. Clara had hired 28 people using that question. 82% stayed because the question identified the right people. Today's hiring managers focused on experience and credentials. Webb focused on character and determination. Webb's way worked better. The farm would continue. Wyatt would pass it to his children someday. They'd pass it further. But the real inheritance wasn't land or equipment. It was the understanding that someone desperate for a chance could build something remarkable if given the opportunity. That determination mattered more than experience. That one person believing in you could change everything. No one had wanted to hire Clara because she had no experience. Webb Harrison asked one question, got the right answer, and changed 2 lives, his and hers, forever. She'd succeeded because she gave the right answer and kept her word. That was the power of one question asked by the right person, answered honestly by someone desperate for a chance, creating an outcome neither could have predicted, but both deserved. May we all be wise enough to ask Webb's question, honest enough to answer the way Clara did, and generous enough to give chances to people who just need someone to believe in them. That was the legacy. That was the lesson. That was what happened when one question changed everything.